Hello, sophomores in Honors English. This is the grammar lesson for March 19th, 2021. All right, so in our grammar lesson, we'll go over the comma and how it affects our writing. Semicolon, colon, and apostrophe will be covered later this week. All right, so please jot down your answer to this first question and pause the video if you need to. How many punctuation marks will we discuss today? Which one or which ones? So, of course, we all know what a comma is, and we even use them in our own writing. But just to recap, a comma indicates a pause, but not as big as that indicated by a period. There are a lot of uses of a comma, right? But some of the most common are a comma in a series, in a compound sentence, around quotes, and to set apart unnecessary parts of a sentence. Right, so let's get some explanation. So, a comma in a series, and we are not talking about baseball series. We are not talking about Netflix Stranger Things series. We are talking about series as in a list, right? So, we all know that things in a list need commas between them, so we know how many things there are. For example, do I have one friend named Sophie, Andrea, Alexandra, William, or do I have four friends? Sophie, Andrea, Alexandra, and William. So commas make our writing clear. They make our writing accurate. So similarly, you want commas between adjectives. If Sophie has a big rectangular phone, you need a comma between those adjectives. But here comes the exception. Let's say we have a stable central government. There's no comma between stable and central, because stable is the adjective for central government. For the word central and the word government as one unit. Right, so comma in a compound sentence. And remember last week when we discussed compound sentences. So if we have two independent clauses joined by for, and, not, but, or, yet, or so, in other words, fanboys, we got to join these independent clauses with a comma. The exception is if the independent clauses are short and there is no way that our reader might get confused, then we may eliminate the comma. Now, for quoted material, when there is a dialogue tag like he said, interrupting the quote, you gotta enclose the dialogue tag in commas. So notice right here in this first example that the first comma goes before the closing quotation mark, and the second comma goes before the beginning quotation mark. And if we already got an exclamation point or quotation mark, we do not need a comma. There's already too much going on. All right, home stretch here. So, commas as we see them in clauses, phrases, appositives, introductory words. But let's remember that a clause is a group of words with the subject and the predicate, and appositives are words or phrases that give information about noun or pronoun. So, in other words, if there is a segment of a sentence in the middle that is not crucial to the key meaning of the sentence, then we enclose that in commas. And similarly, if we have a word or a few words at the beginning that aren't crucial to the understanding, then a comma goes after those. All right, so in this first example, the tall woman over there, the only one who works in the deli department of the local supermarket, has brown hair and blue eyes. See how that middle section, the only one who works in the deli department of the local super, okay, that's some extra information. We could just pop that right out of the sentence and just the key meaning. The thing we really need to know is what this person looks like. That's still there. Even if we take that big section closing commas, if we take that right out, the key meaning is there and the sentence makes perfect sense. Mhm. Right, so please pause your video to write down the correct version of these sentences. As you can see, this is longer than the first question, so please take your time, add commas where they need to be, and cross off commas if they should not be there, or just don't write them. All right, so list and explain briefly, in a couple sentences each, at least two occasions in which we must use a comma. And you probably have some good points, especially after answering the last question. Please pause to answer. And maybe you're thinking, okay, so what's the big deal? Why do we even need to learn about commas? So, first, we want to make sense, right? Not only will lack of commas make our sentence feel jumbled, but it won't even have the same meaning anymore. Think of let's eat grandma versus let's eat grandma. Hopefully, the second one is correct for you. But we also want to be more credible, more trustworthy. And with too many mistakes, people might trust us less. So, third, we don't want our reader having to decipher what we're trying to say. We want to make it easy for them to understand what we mean, right? So, think of do I have one friend named Sophie, Andrea, Alexandra, William? Or do I have four friends? Sophie, Andrea, Alexandra, and William. We want to be nice to the reader. We don't want to put this burden on them. We don't want them to have to go out of their way to try to figure out what we're talking about. All right. And lastly, but most importantly, learning is fulfilling, right? Understanding things is satisfying. It feels good to know things. All right. So, lastly, why does punctuation matter? So, take a minute to pause and write down your thoughts. All right. Thank you and see you soon.